Hiya folks, how's it going? My name is Lexi and I really love tabletop role-playing games. So much so that we sit down and review one here once a week, every week on the gaming table. I try to keep these videos on the shorter side, between 5 to 10 minutes, so we can both find our next game. Today, however, for my review, I've decided to sort of do a 2-for-1 and bundle two games together in one review. I decided to bundle these two games together because they're both two-player games and they are both from the Raven's Ridge Emporium. This story is probably getting old for some of you. It's now been like a month or two, maybe a bit more than that, since I went to a local market event being held in a pub in my city, which was themed around tabletop games. I did pick up not just tabletop role-playing games, there were also some accessories, and I picked up a small board game there, but I want to focus on reviewing some of the games that I picked up. I'm trying to sprinkle in some games from the Raven's Ridge Emporium every so often because I purchased quite a few of their games and I'm keen to share them with you, but also I don't want to just feature one creative studio all the time. If you like the sound of what I do here at the gaming table, making reviews about tabletop role-playing games in short videos, you should subscribe and turn on notifications, that way YouTube will tell you when my next video is coming out. Also, if you would like to really help out the channel, there is a link in the description box to my Ko-Fi page where you can donate to the channel. All donations go straight back to the running costs of the channel, so it's really appreciated. I also put a short little thank you at the end of my videos to acknowledge everyone who's donated in the previous month. So if you would like to be acknowledged, please let me know and let me know how I should acknowledge you. But of course, you don't have to make a donation if you don't want to. I just really appreciate having you all here with me discussing games. So with my thank yous and the backstory of how I got these games explained, let's take a look at these two very interesting games. We are taking a look at The Shadow of Glory and Host. In The Shadow of Glory follows two people who have a deeply entwined and complicated past with one another. Maybe these characters were lovers, maybe they are rivals. Now they are a superhero and a supervillain. They've reconnected years down the track, writing letters back and forth between each other. In these letters, they will talk about current events, as well as excavating some of their trauma and drama that they have with one another. At least through the act of writing to each other, these characters are seeking some form of resolution. This game is an epistolary writing experience, so the events of the game unfold by the letters that they write. Some of the events will be extraordinary events like clashes between superheroes, monsters, and some of the things might be more mundane events. To start a game, the two players will need to sit down for the character creation process. You do this step together because the character creation process needs the players to draw cards from a deck of playing cards. You then look to a relevant table which will tell you what kind of aspect or character trait your character has. This can include things, of course, like what their superpower is. A step of this process that I think is fascinating is it's only until the very last step do the two players decide which person is going to have the villain character and which one's going to have the hero character. I think the point of this is not to go in with a preconceived notion of who's going to be the villain. Rather, it's to explore the character creation process and in some ways tell a story of how anyone can become a hero or a villain, depending on their circumstances. To then play the game, the players have their characters write letters back and forth. The players create the contents of these letters by drawing cards from a standard deck. When you look at this playing card, you will then look for a relevant table. This will tell you what kind of event the card is saying is going to happen in the story. There's a couple of end conditions for this game. The first one that I really appreciate is the players can decide that if the story feels like it's reached a natural conclusion, to end the game. The other end conditions are stipulated by mechanics in the game. For example, your character has a series of goals, and you mark the progress towards achieving those goals by ticking off boxes. You achieve those goals potentially by the prompts that appear in the cards. Your character also has boxes for scars. If they reach 4 or more of these, they conclude the game because their character has taken on too much trauma and it's not yet been resolved. There's also 4 tick boxes which represent risk. If your character manages to get 4 risk in a game, this means that their secret identity has been exposed. So that naturally, I suppose, ends their writing. Goals can be advanced every round, but things like scars and risks can be affected by the prompts that you draw from the playing cards. There's also the possibility that you might go backwards on some of your goals. So it's a little bit unknown as to when a game may end. If you have a certain type of luck and you get a bunch of scars early on, that could end the game pretty early for both players. There is the risk that the 2 characters have their traumas or their stories unresolved by game's end. I really like that this game has the 2 characters writing back and forth, not just about the big stuff, but also about their mundane everyday lives. It made the world of this game feel really real and grounded to me. One of the best things about superhero stories is that social drama. I know we all love superheroes decking each other and big explosions, but I really think that this element of the social tension is one of the things that makes those stories so worthwhile. In the Shadow of Glory is a game I think I'd want to play with someone I'm comfortable being a little bit vulnerable with. Of course, it's about a fictitious character, so it's not real. For myself, I'm happy to roleplay kind of vulnerable scenarios with acquaintances I've not yet met. For yourself though, perhaps you might want to know them a little bit better, or you might want to set up some boundaries prior to playing. So let's now talk about Host. Host tells the story of a person and their parasitic entity that has clung onto them. The person, the host, and the parasite wrestle for control over the body's memories. The host will try resist the mind games of the parasite, while the parasite tries to distort, manipulate, and perhaps even create new memories for the host to lose control over themselves. The parasite tries to manipulate, change, maybe even create memories that will destroy the host's psyche and ensure that the parasite has control. To play a game of Host, you need a pack of playing cards and some writing materials. The deck of cards will provide prompts for the memories of the host. These are then placed in the middle of the table. The host and then the parasite will then fight for control over this memory. To start a game of Host, you need to decide who's going to be the host and who's going to be the parasite. Then each role has a selection of archetypes to choose from. This gives you some small mechanical advantages in certain scenarios, and also directs what kind of character or entity you're playing. A round of Host starts with the host, who can choose from a variety of actions: repress, establish memory, and recall. These actions will require to use some cards that are in a hand of playing cards for you to try exert control over one of the memories on the table. The parasite then goes. They can choose to corrupt, seed, or grow with memory. Both roles in the game can create new memories but also manipulate pre-existing ones. Depending on where the card is then placed on the table, that will represent who's gotten ultimate control over it in the end. The position of the card on the table is really significant. If it's rotated a certain way, that indicates who has control over it. A game of Host can end when the host has either been able to repress 3 memories, or the parasite has been able to consume 3 memories. Whoever gets there first has won the struggle. I really like that you not only use the deck of playing cards to create prompts for the kind of memories, but also the players have hands of cards and they kind of play it like it's a competitive card game to see who can win control. Tabletop games in general tend to be a cooperative experience. Characters working towards a goal together. In this game though, the 2 characters are explicitly working against one another. Of course, this doesn't mean that it's not going to be a good game, I guess one of the things I would want to bear in mind is that while our characters are competing with one another, the main goal is to create an interesting and entertaining story for both players. I also find the structure of this game really compelling. It's kind of a psychological drama playing out. Host is a relatively dark game, and it can get to some unpleasant or personal areas. I would maybe suggest, if you're going to play this game, having a discussion if there's anything that's off limits, or if you want to, maybe only playing it with someone you know who isn't going to be a dick. In the Shadow of the Glory retails for around $28 US and Host for $13 US. I paid about the equivalent in Australian dollars for those games. I will put a link to the Ravens Ridge Emporium website in the description box of this video, so you can check out the website for yourself. Personally, for me, I really loved these games, so I'm really glad I picked them up. So those are my thoughts on In the Shadow of Glory and Host. Let me know what you think. Which one of these games, I suppose, would you want to play first? They both appeal to me in very different ways. Let me know your thoughts about them in the comments section down below. While you're there commenting, sharing your thoughts, if you want to, you could like this video and share it with a friend who you think might find it interesting. If you'd like to keep up with the gaming table, you can subscribe and turn on notifications. That way YouTube should tell you when I've next uploaded. If you would like to really support the channel, there is a link in the description box to my Ko-Fi page where you can donate to the channel. Every single donation goes straight back into the running costs of the channel, so it is deeply appreciated. If you do decide to donate, please let me know if I can acknowledge you or how best to acknowledge you when I put my little thank you at the end of my video. Of course, you don't have to donate. I really appreciate having you all here and interacting with these videos and telling me what you think of these games. I want to thank you all for watching and discussing In the Shadow of Glory by Jesse Lee and Host by Brandon Lee. I hope you're all well, and I look forward to seeing you next time at the gaming table. Bye!